Hey, everybody, look at this. A live stream of Unbagging Comics, something that I did, I don't know, like 10 weeks ago. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this all the time. But here we are doing it again, and that's really the key. I see Jeff Winstead in the chat. I was actually here a little early for those that are actually, this is only going to be on YouTube. I usually have to kind of cater to the fact that the regular podcast is all mainly for audio only listeners, but this is just a video extra, as it were. And I was here a few minutes early, nobody else was, but then there was Jeff Winstead calling everyone slackers, everyone who is not here. That's how much of slackers they are, and that's fine if nobody else joins us live. Basically, Jeff and I had been trading, I was going to say texts, but technically they're Facebook instant messages. We were trading those. And I was like, oh, yeah, I got all kinds of good stuff. So without further ado, I have a bunch of stuff that I've been lucky enough to get my local comic shop of choice. There are quite a few in Burbank. There's 4 that come to mind. And the one that I seem to like the people the most, and I kind of like where the location is called Black Cat Comics. Now, they just this week opened their doors and then closed their doors because of curfew, but they were just letting people back in this week for the first time. But for the last few months, on Instagram Live, they've been doing these claim sales where they'll show you stuff that they have. And the ones that I'm most interested in are the back at you ones. Sometimes they'll do toys, and they do new comic stuff, but obviously there hadn't been new comics the last couple months. So some of the stuff I have are new comics that I've gotten from them. And a lot of it, though, are back issues that the price was just too hard to say no to. And in some of these cases, there's one in particular, actually, was something that I'd wanted for a long time, and I'll explain it when I get to it. If this sounds interesting to you, they're at Black Cat Burbank on Instagram. That's why I was looking down. I was a little confused. But look, that's their Instagram page, Black Cat Burbank. And every Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific, that's 6 p.m. Eastern, they do back issues, and usually Tuesdays, but this week they did it on Wednesday also at 3 p.m. Pacific is when they do the new comics. And the thing about that is, like, unless you can get to your local store on the first day, it's a really good opportunity to get the variant covers, all the alternate covers that are out there. Not the alternate, which our guest in the chat, Jeff Winstead, is responsible for, and available now on Comixology and Amazon. I mean, if he's going to be in the chat, he's going to get a plug. And if you want to hear a whole conversation that myself, Will Sterling, and Jeff DeRay had with him, check out Bladtcast 385. There's a video for that. There's also audio for that. Anyway, so these online sales for Black Cat, kind of being in the middle of the afternoon, have been very convenient for me. I've spent a little bit of money. I've PayPal'd a little bit. It all started off, I wanted to support a local business in these, very uncertain economic times. So I thought it was a fun thing to do. Anyway, so that's the 4 minutes of preamble. Let's actually, I've got them here in my backpack. That's right. My sweet Mets backpack. I actually have them in multiple bags. Now, I didn't do all these in one claim set. Like I said, I haven't done this for almost 2 months. And I don't do this every week, but I've accumulated these sporadically over the last 2 weeks. Lots of bags. I should save those for taking out the trash. All right. I actually can't tell you what I spent on each of these, not because I don't want to reveal it. I actually forget. Very little did I spend. I think there's a couple that I might have spent like $12 or $15 for. The first one I think was $15, but usually I'm good for stuff that's like $5, or it's like a whole series. You know, they put 4 issues up in there. Anyway, so for we've got additional people in the chat. So I am about to show off some of these comics that I bought on a claim sale. So this is I don't know if this is the first appearance of the Mindworm, but it is Amazing Spider-Man number 138. So this would be kind of not the golden age, but this is sort of that early 70s prime Jerry Conway era of Amazing Spider-Man. And I'm fascinated by this era. The death of Gwen Stacy, the death of Green Goblin, and sort of how the book transitions from that point. And so I'm always interested in that. You'll see something else that's probably, I think, 2 years after this, early or towards the end of the Clone Saga. But see, the people that are in these claim sales, there's some of us who, there's one guy that it's like almost anything Batman related, he's usually in on. I'm always interested in Marvel stuff, but when it's older stuff like this is usually what I want. And yes, I could find this digitally. I could read that whole run, but I definitely still like to flip open the comics and actually get some of that new comic smell. Maybe, just maybe, I'll share some of that new comic smell with you in a little bit. So I'll have to do a follow-up video after I've read all of these. But does anybody remember the Mindworm? Because I don't. This is one of those things that I bought completely on impulse, 100% based on the cover. For those of you who saw the link I posted on Instagram, this was the picture that I used. Earth's Mightiest Heroes, The Avengers, getting some glare there. Number 33. This is a new book that came out, I guess, on Tuesday. And just this like sweet Khonshu Moon Knight cover. That's all it took. What did I spend on this? Oh, $3.99. I was going to say $2.99, but still, it's a pretty sweet cover. So I feel pretty good about this. Now, it's part 1 of a whole saga. So they got me with the cover. I'm going to read what's inside, and I'll let you know, am I going to come back for part 2? But Moon Knight's always kind of been sort of a fascinating character. Never really caught on in a huge way, but he's had so many series. There was a 90s series called Mark Spector Moon Knight, and that's the one that I read like every issue of. The old one, maybe Jeff knows this, I feel like the early 80s Moon Knight was a direct sales only book, kind of like Kazar. So I didn't really have the opportunity because I didn't have one of those kind of shops, at least not when I was first reading comics. But I don't even know who's on the Avengers right now. I think Captain Marvel, but that's just a guess. So to see, but I remember Moon Knight being on the West Coast Avengers, which happened maybe around issue 50 of, I was going to say the first series. Actually, it's the second series. Volume 2 was the ongoing monthly series. So I'm interested in this. Oh, and Jeff Winstead is there. He makes this point. The $2.99 days are over. I know. I mean, when I started reading comics, let me tell you about back in my day, kids. They were 60 cents. Whew. So, there's something to be said for that. And then they went up to 75. Well, they went to 65, then to 75. And everybody was worried. As soon as it went up to $1, they're like, well, that's it. There's going to be no stopping the prices. And I think if they'd maintained the popularity they had at that point, maybe. But the fact that, I don't know, did they go to $1 like 30 years ago? Pretty sure. It's more than 25 years ago. So if it's only gone up to $4, it's not that bad, but it's hard to imagine it. The idea of a kid being able to get 60 cents makes more sense. No, did not mean that. But yeah, so I don't know. This book for $3.99, we'll see if it was worth it. To me, it's worth it for the cover. I don't know. You've seen this cover online before, Jeff, but it's intriguing, right? I mean, if I were to be able to pass this through the screen to you, you'd want to read it right now, wouldn't you? And that's Jeff, and that's also to all of you. I out of loyalty to Spidey, I bought the brand new issue of this Amazing Spider-Man. I have, I think, 1 through 12. I subscribed to it a few years ago. It comes out twice a month, so bi-weekly, fortnightly, if you will. So I was subscribed for 1 through 12, and I read those, and I actually really liked this series. It was sort of like a soft reboot of Spidey after issue 800 of Amazing Spider-Man, and they did a new volume of Amazing Spider-Man. But I don't know what's happened between 12 and 43. So there's a good 30 issues. But this really just felt like an impulse buy on the Acclaim sale. But I want to know what's going on because there's Boomerang. I mean, it's got to be Boomerang. I mean, the guy's got boomerangs on his back. Don't be a pseudo a wannabe Boomerang. But now I'm seeing that this is part 3 of an ongoing series. So I will, I'll have to see how much sense this makes. Well, they've got glossier paper than they did, when I was reading it the last time. So that's where your $3.99 goes to. I don't know. Look, I'm always a sucker for Spidey, and I've been away from Spidey for a while, but, I bought issue 800, and then the fact that they were starting a new series right after that, I was kind of interested. So I'll have to let you know about this one. You want to talk about your impulse buys? 6,000%. This was an impulse buy. This is one of those. I alluded to this when I was telling Jeff about the stuff I was going to look at. This is Incredible Hulk 46. I don't know what volume of Incredible Hulk, but this amazing Apocalypse Now cover, I don't even care if I never read it. I want to read it. I'll read it. But completely an impulse buy just to get this Apocalypse Now cover. I was in. That they got me. They definitely, I judged this book by its cover. We'll see if maybe that was a mistake, but I don't know. I mean, just take a look. To me, that's very cool. And I don't know what the sticker says, but I got it for cover price. So I don't even know if that's a this month book. It might actually be a little bit older, but it's kind of cool. So I like that one. This is an older one, but I did get the so you know it's older because the cover price was indeed $2.99, but it was a Thor #1, and I was like, all right, I like Thor. I haven't seen him in there. Uvula Scrimshaw in the chat used to collect Incredible Hulk back in the day. I did too. There's a few eras that I like. The John Byrne one was good at when basically they switched the entire creative team with the creative team of Alpha Flight. The Peter David, Todd McFarlane era. And then there was also Al Milgrom, a fan favorite of both Jeff Winstead and I. But his run on Actually Incredible Hulk was pretty great. So I was with Incredible Hulk from, I don't know. It was around 300. It was a while, actually, because the McFarlane issues were like 340. Well, the famous Wolverine with the Gray Hulk reflection and Wolverine's claws. That is 340. So, yeah, I was around for a few years. And I really liked that story. And I had never really connected with the character before that. But I checked that out. Let's see. Your question about the art. Yes. This Incredible Hulk does indeed have Immonen art. And yes, I don't know. Immonen sounds right though. So yes, you were correct about that. So yeah, but I find the Hulk to be a very intriguing character in the movies, and I sure did watch a lot of the Bill Bixby TV show. But like anything, I was just like, yeah, but couldn't he just fight one supervillain? Like, why is he basically like Magnum PI who can turn into the Hulk? You know, can't you give him more stuff to do? So yeah, this was Heroes Return. This was like, I think this was sort of Marvel's New 52, but this was more, what was the thing after New 52 in DC where they kind of apologized for New 52? I think that's what Heroes Return was. They had kind of gone off. Uh, they had switched the continuities. Yeah, it's a John Romita Jr. cover. He does the interiors as well. So that the cover got me, but the fact that it was a number one and it's an era of Thor. I had read Thor for a while, but not by the 90s. I was only reading X-Men, and I've told the story before. I still have a box that has like, I think at least a full year, if not a year and a half's worth of Uncanny X-Men and regular X-Men, and I hadn't read them, so I just stopped buying it, and I still haven't read those books that I had there. I'd read up until that point. I've read up till about 1998, right around this time actually. So yeah, but I mean, a great John Romita Jr. cover is worth the. I think I spent $4 on this, so there might have been an upcharge for 20 years worth. But the Walt Simonson era of Thor was the one that I read. So right in the smack dab in the middle of Frog Thor, I will always love Frog Thor. I think that's what has endeared me to the character now and forever, is the fact that they turned him into a frog, and that was a 2-issue story arc. Anyway, I don't know if I'm going too slow through these comics. Just say something. Impulse buy, but also because a friend at AfterBuzz TV who produces a lot of my shows, Ryan Nilsson, is such a huge Star Wars nerd. He was really excited for this series. This is a new book. This came out on Tuesday. So Star Wars Dr. Aphra, it being number one. I'm like, wait, where's the number one? I know where the numbers used to be on these books. So I actually don't know much about this. I just know it's in the Star Wars universe, and I'll check it out. One of the books I subscribed to was the ongoing monthly Star Wars book right around when it got to like issue 50. And it was interesting. I mean, it was the New Hope era, and I know now they're doing the Empire Strikes Back era. So I don't know. It'll be interesting because I remember reading the original Marvel Star Wars book, the Empire Strikes Back, between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi era was when I read it. And I mean, they were definitely spinning their wheels. It was like the search for Han Solo. And yet they say at the end of Empire Strikes Back where Boba Fett's taking him, and everyone knew where he was taking him because he was bringing him to Jabba. So they sort of invented this, like, there were other people on his tail trying to, but you don't even see Boba Fett. So it'll be interesting to see stories set in that timeline with the benefit of hindsight. I actually really liked the first comic book I ever bought was Star Wars number 75, Marvel Star Wars number 75. Mostly because my brother had bought a bunch of Marvel books over the previous few months, and he had bought Star Wars number 74. And I'm like, well, I got to see what happened. And it was years before I read Star Wars number 76. I didn't have the whole like buying the books monthly thing down. But that's why even back then I subscribed to comics, because I lived in a small town. There was one like newsstand, coffee shop was really what it was, but it had like a lot of magazines. They would get comics in. And I was old enough that I could ride my bike into town, way into town to get it. But it was more, I wanted to be sure that I was going to get it, and I would save a little money. So I would subscribe directly from Marvel. Star Wars was one of the comics I did that with. And there were a few others. My brother subscribed to G.I. Joe. And then we started doing Westfield Comics, which I know Jeff Winstead also did. Oh, yeah, good point from Uvula Scrimshaw. John Byrne's She-Hulk was his favorite, and the Fantastic Four too. Yeah, I really liked that, like 1991-ish, the sensational She-Hulk, which was not the Savage She-Hulk, which is the one from the 70s. Sensational She-Hulk was that tongue-in-cheek comedic She-Hulk. So the self-aware, like break the fourth wall, she knew she was in a comic. I thought that was kind of fun and that was interesting. And I hope that when Disney Plus does their She-Hulk show, that it's that sensibility that they bring to it. And that's why, one of the names that people on the internet have wanted is Alison Brie. I almost said Alison Blair. That's the Dazzler. Alison Brie from Community and Mad Men. I think she'd be a good fit. She's short, but I'm not that worried about that. Her physicality, I think, is good because she does that show Glow on Netflix. Anyway, so I know very little about this, except that this dude looks like Johnny Five from Short Circuit, and I bought it anyway, even though it looked like Johnny Five was on the cover. Now, this was a story that I'd wanted to read for a while. And the interesting thing was on Marvel Movie News, a show that I'm one of the co-hosts for on YouTube, the Popcorn Talk Network, usually Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. The shows are not in production for the rest of this week and not until next Monday, but we should be back next week. When we did a show for Memorial Day, we were talking about some of the characters, the best characters in the Marvel universe who had served in the military. Obviously, Captain America was number one on the list. We gave some shout outs to Wolverine. He served in the Canadian military, but I guess he also served in the Civil War, but that was sort of a retcon bit of information from after the time that I was reading regularly. And just, some of the other names that got thrown around were Rhodey, aka War Machine, although when I was a kid, he was just regular Iron Man, and Tony Stark was a drunk. Great way to, welcome kids to like this guy. Hey, look, it's Iron Man. Yeah, he's at the bottom of a bottle. But here's his friend Rhodey. He's going to be Iron Man for a while. All right, that's fine. And I think underrated is that gray, red, and black Iron Man suit, kind of with the almost like the fins, but almost like shoulder pads. I liked that Iron Man 200 suit. Any of you in the chat, whether it's live or the archive version, you let me know what you think of that. Anyway, we're talking about military members, and Frank Castle came out, and I talked about how in that episode, I talked about how in Marvel's ongoing Vietnam anthology series, The Nam, they featured Frank Castle's origin and also like where the skull came from. And, somebody commented, just trying to be helpful, said that The Nam was about real Vietnam veterans and their stories. And it wasn't about Frank Castle, to which I just quickly responded, there were two issues. The Punisher invades the Nam. And so within a week after me commenting that, Kyle, the guy who runs Black Cat Comics, put up both issues of the two-part story that I could have read at any point. Let's see, when is this? 1992, it looks like. So yeah, in almost 30 years, I've had plenty of opportunities where I could have gotten this, but I don't usually think to look for it. And then to see it on the claim sale where I'm going to get both of them, I don't know, I probably spent $8 for both. So really looking forward to this. Really, because like I remember when the Nam series started, it was like very collectible because of the realism of it. But yeah, I got both of these. Yeah, it says $7.99 on here. I think that is actually the price that they put them up for. So I'll be interested in letting people know about this. And a great point right here from Uvula Scrimshaw. Ben Grimm and Reed Richards were World War II vets when I was reading them. Even when I read in the 80s, they still were. I know that that's been done away with because obviously at this point it doesn't make sense for them to have been that old. I actually don't know what their backstory is now, but yeah, that was the case for a while. And the Silver Centurion armor is how they refer to that Iron Man 200 suit. I have heard that term. I'm glad that Jeff is up on things. That's why Jeff is here to keep me honest. Anyway, let me know if anybody's ever read these. I am looking forward to that. And I don't think I meant to put them in this order. I did cheat a little bit. I had to stack these, so I tried to put them in an order that I thought would be interesting. So this was a series that I did not ever know happened, but I love the idea of like the Frank Miller Batman Year One. So I would like to see Punisher Year One. And I remember now when they did this, they only had 3 of the 4 issues. So I'm going to read these and then I'm not going to have the last part. So I'll have to seek that out somewhere. But it's and this says $18, but I did not spend that much. I would not have spent that much for 3/4 of a series that I didn't know about that I would like to read at some point. So there's a lot of Punisher. He may show up again. We'll see. So a lot of Punisher reading to do. This one, I don't remember if it was like $8 or $10. It was just an old Marvel comic from, a guy who wasn't one of their A-list characters, but thanks to the movies, Iron Man sure is. Here he is again on my shirt. I have no idea what would have been happening in Invincible Iron Man number 29. Now, this would not be like the 29th appearance of him because, one, he was in the Avengers, but also he started off in Tales to Astonish. So this is the 29th issue of his solo book. But and this is long enough ago where there are word balloons on the cover. And something that is a little known fact, but longtime editor-in-chief Jim Shooter did not like word balloons on the cover. So that's why there's a certain point where it's not that you never saw them, but they're very uncommon throughout the 70s. And then I think they come back at some point. Maybe Tom DeFalco didn't have any problem with it. And I'm sure Bob Harris didn't, but that's a story for another time. I kind of bought this one as a consolation because weeks earlier, I was a little too trepidatious on Marvel Team Up 65, which was the first appearance of Captain Britain. And it was $20. I was trying to get it for $15. And then somebody jumped in and just bought it for $20. And then in hindsight, now that I know that even if I had gotten it for $35, that would have been a good price. I should have gotten it. Then this one came up a couple of weeks later. This is the first appearance of Arcade, whom X-Men fans know. And these issues of Marvel Team Up, this is definitely written by Chris Claremont. I think the art is by John Byrne. Yeah, I'm almost positive. This is the second appearance of Captain Britain. I did get it for, I think, $10. So there's something to be said for that. Maybe it was $12. But I think I've actually read this story because I know at one point Marvel Team Up reprinted all of the Chris Claremont, John Byrne Marvel Team Up stories before they switched to reprinting all of the Punisher stories. And, and the Marvel Tales. Yeah, this is a great point. Yeah, great point in here. I had the Marvel Tales reprint of that one, Jeff Winstead says. Excellent art by John Byrne. Yeah, I have this. I've definitely read this. This is what I thought. This is 66. My favorite from that run, of course, which I have in a box here somewhere, is Marvel Tales number 74, which has never been reprinted. Spider-Man and the Not Ready for Primetime Players. Peter and Mary Jane go to a taping of Saturday Night Live. Stan Lee is the host. Silver Samurai shows up, and Spidey needs to intervene. And the first time that I talked to Chris Claremont, way back in Bladtcast number 39, an episode that can be found on SoundCloud, we talked about that for, probably a good 10 minutes because of how excited I was to talk about that book. And I think that was one of the things that he liked about talking to me, is that I asked him about something, completely out of left field like that. Anyway, so yeah, this Claremont run, there's another issue of this Marvel Team Up where the X-Men showed up, and it was technically the first time John Byrne drew the X-Men. It's not this one, but just having this is kind of cool, I think. And it's in really good shape too. Like a lot of times books from the 70s, the spine's going to be cracked. Like This one's older. This is from, I think, the late 60s. It's not in as good shape, but actually all these books are in at least decent shape. And right when the coronavirus shutdown happened, I wanted to give some money to Black Cat Comics, so I was trading messages with Kyle, who runs the store, about what X-Men stuff do you have? And because I don't even know if I've talked about this. I think I did on the episode with Andy Smith. I work backwards for Uncanny X-Men, so I think I'm at 133 now, all the way up to like maybe 320, or I forget exactly when I stopped reading. The first I was just trying to get back to the Dark Phoenix saga, and I haven't quite completed that yet. And it's usually one of those things that I'll do when I'm putting together a Christmas or birthday list for a lot of like extended family. I don't know what to ask for a lot of the times. It's a lot of like Blu-rays and CDs, because I'm an old man and I like physical media, and I don't want an iTunes gift card. And so sometimes I'll just put like, Uncanny X-Men 134. I got that for Christmas a few years ago. So anyway, so I wrote to Kyle, and he had some stuff like 126, maybe, I don't know. And he let me know that one of them, actually, there were creases in the cover. And if you've ever gotten a comic where the front cover is creased and folded down, it's kind of infuriating. So I was so glad he told me. I found something else to spend the money on, and I appreciate that. His books are usually in good shape, and if they're not, it's usually because they're older and you're going to pay much less for them, and he'll tell you, which is something that I appreciate. Anyway, so we were talking about Marvel Team Up. I bought this. This is from, I think, right before the shutdown, so maybe this came out in March, maybe late March. Falcon Winter Soldier #1, mostly because I'm excited for the Disney Plus TV series, and we don't have it yet. This is not a brand new book, but it's a current book. The fact that it was #1 was why I got it. I don't think I'm getting the series as soon as I wanted it. So the TV series. So I want to see what Bucky and Sam are up to. But it's not set in the MCU, so I'll just have to deal with that aspect of it. All right, this is a fun one. They'll go faster because there's clumps of like collections here. I didn't know anything about this book. They just put it up. It was the whole series, so it's one. So there's 4 of these here. I think I spent $15 on 4 of them. It's Fantastic Four, Iron Man, big in Japan. I'm like, it sat there for a while, and they kept going past it, and I'm like, I could Google what this is, or I could help out a local business and just take a chance. I could do what Abbott says and take a chance on me. Now, I haven't even seen what any of the other covers look like. I just thought that one looked cool. So let's see, what do we have here? All right, so that's #1. I showed that already. Oh boy. Getting a look at some very unique artwork here. That looks like from the Simpsons Halloween episode when Homer is King Kong. But I do love the FF, and Iron Man is there with them. Okay, if this had been the one they had shown, I would have definitely bought this. I mean, look at Sumo Ben Grimm. Come on, like who doesn't want Sumo Ben Grimm in their life? And then the final part looks like a Godzilla-like creature coming out of the ocean. So I hope that this is fun. Zeb Wells and Seth Fisher are responsible for all 4 issues. I have never heard of either of them. Let me know. I don't even know when these are from. Yeah, it doesn't actually say, but I'm sure it says inside. Anyway, I don't need to put it away. It'll take too long. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of this character. So this was another one where I got an entire 4-issue run. Little Rasputin, Ileana Rasputin, Colossus's sister. So they did a new Magic 4-issue miniseries. And the 4-issue miniseries from the 80s is something I've had for quite a long time. I think I had most of them when they were new, and then I had to, get back issues to fill it in. But that was how they explained Ileana going from a little girl to a teenager so she could join the New Mutants. The way that time passed, like in a second when she was in limbo, and then she was older. And then I was remembering, because I saw a cover recently, that after Claremont left, like in the 300s or so, they turned her back into a little girl. And I was like, no, I didn't know. Who wanted that? Anyway, so I like this character, and anybody who saw the trailer for the New Mutants movie that has not come out, and some believe never will come out, I like to think it'll be out August 28th. I don't know how movie theaters are going to work. I'm going to see it at the drive-in either way. So I hope movie theaters are open and a lot of people can go see it. More than anything, I just want to be able to go see it, and I'll go see it at a drive-in. So anyway, there are 4 issues of this. I don't quite know when these are from, but they don't look that old. Although, $2.99. So as we've learned, this is going to be from a little while ago. So maybe this was not too far off from the time when she was a little girl and then she got old again. And oh my goodness, come on. Like, Caesar haircut Nightcrawler. Yeah, that's you got me on that one. So I don't know what this specific storyline is. It just says X-Men Magic. And then the interesting thing is that she's from the pages of Black Sun. But I mean, she's Colossus's sister. She's from the pages of New Mutants and some other things. This we're getting close to the end because I see what's about to come up. That's right. I thought I was going to do this for 20 minutes. It's already been 40. So time usually passes the same in the Bladtcast. Let's catch up on some comments. Mr. Fantastic would be natural for tentacle porn. Thank you, Uvula Scrimshaw. You're absolutely right. He wouldn't miss a beat, pun intended. Jeff Winstead, Abnett and Lanning are decent writers. Was that? Yeah, that was this. That was for that Magic series. So looking forward to that. This was a one-shot, and that was why I bought it. So this style of Logan, Path of the Warlord, the sort of the samurai nature of Logan. One of my favorite series is Kitty Pryde and Wolverine. Obviously, the original Wolverine, Chris Claremont, Frank Miller series is a classic. The Kitty Pryde and Wolverine is so close. It's like an extension of that. And I love that series. And that's more about Kitty basically becoming a ninja. But I was intrigued by this kind of cool looking cover, but a one shot where I'm not going to have to worry about all the continuity and stuff that I've missed, for really not reading comics regularly for 20 years. I thought that would be a good one. All right. So here's some fun ones. Let's see. Yep. These all run together. So I've got a few. Daredevil. This one is number 161. And this is not when the book is still called Daredevil and Black Widow, but yet you can see there's Natasha. There's some, I think I have to take it out because the glare is too much because it's an old bag. There's some weird perspective here. And Jeff once said, you're an artist. I think that they've defied some laws of physics here with that leg, the way Matt is falling, and the fact that I don't think he's going to catch Natasha. That's actually what they talked about on the claim sale when they put this issue up. And it sat there for a while. And I'm like, you know what? I want to see this in person. And now that I have it out, I told you I was going to do this at some point. Oh, yeah. Now that is a good smelling book. This book is from 1979, so not older than me. But, Roger McKenzie, the writer. but the art is Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. So, yeah, I mean, this is great. You've got this ad where black-haired Stan is trying to get you to subscribe to 4 books for the price of 3. But what I wanted to show off is how this is just a very Frank Miller, Klaus Janson looking book. I mean, this is, I don't know. I mean, I got it because of the weird perspective on the cover, but a Bullseye story, Natasha's in it, Black Widow. I thought that was pretty cool. So, let's see. So Jeff Winstead says, I just read that digital collection. So you just read these Daredevils. I've read some of these. Yeah, that's early Frank Miller, which there's some early Frank Miller that some Spider-Man work that he did that, quite honestly, I'm very underwhelmed by, but his Daredevil stuff is great. And this is a really important question. Yuva Scrimshaw asks if there's X-ray specs and or Sea Monkey ads. I've got this ad for Lego on the back, but look, this was an important thing, and if he's willing to be here and watch me open up, does a Hubba Bubba ad count for anything? Nah, probably not. As I thump right into the microphone, I already showed you the Stanley ad. Yeah, there's not really good ads in here. You know, what I like in your books from the 70s, and maybe Jeff Winstead and maybe Jeff will agree. I love the Twinkie the Kid, like little comic book stories that the one-pagers. All right, this one, 100%. Well, no. Okay. It's very largely because of the cover, but then the cover telling me who's on it. Daredevil 183, Frank Castle shooting Daredevil. I don't think that really happens, though. If it does, I don't think he shoots him on purpose, because he would not shoot someone. So I have this one, 183, with the Punisher. And I've seen this book for a long time. So I kind of forgot that I wanted it. But when I saw this is 184. So this is the next month where he's got the gun. And, the idea that Daredevil wouldn't shoot anybody. It's a different time and place. Frank Miller's involved. So your superheroes will shoot. Stop or Frank Miller will shoot you. So very much looking forward to reading these. And then I might have to digitally read beyond this. Sorry that I keep thumping against the microphone. But these are 2 books that I'm very excited to have. These, because honestly, the Frank Miller Daredevil run, I was there when he came back for Born Again, 227 of Daredevil. But I haven't read almost any of these. So I think I've read some reprints and collections, but I'm very interested in this era. Right on through to, let's see, 6 months later, I've seen this book a lot. Daredevil 190, this great Elektra cover. I think she was dead at this point, but she doesn't look dead. So maybe they thought she was dead. And then maybe this is when she really dies. Look at this, though. Special double-sized issue. $1 for your double-sized issue. Now that is a deal. The interesting thing about this is that it's issue 190, but it's double-sized. I like when the story dictates that it's double-sized. Sure, your issue 200s and your landmark issues being double-sized. I like when you're just telling a story that you need more room for more story. Anyway, those are all my Daredevils. I've got 3 more books. The first Spider-Man comic I bought, I think, was Marvel Tales 154. And the first current for the time was Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man number 89. I quickly realized that there were a lot of Spider-Man books, even in 1983. And then I got Amazing Spider-Man 254. So I have a soft spot for Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. This was number 50, Alone Against the Aliens. And yes, this is what I was talking about, early Frank Miller drawing some Spidey. This one's not too bad. I don't know anything about these villains that he's fighting. I did always like sort of this look where, it's artistic license where you have half Peter, half Spider-Man, and the half Spider-Man is more the indication that his spider sense is going off. So, I wish I had known that it was somebody had stamped on it. Ugh. I don't know. I think I spent $5 for it, so it's whatever. But I didn't notice that in the claim sale, but that's all right. Oddly enough, I just randomly, this is going back like 35 years. I bought Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man issue 2. It was like this weird thing where it was like on a rack at like a magazine shop, like near where my aunt lived. And I was like, has that been on the rack for 10 years? I still don't understand how it was, but I got it. Oh, yeah. Sorry. The Scrimshaw's comment has been up this whole time. Jeff Winstead being impressed. Were you impressed by my the Electra cover, or was it those two Punishers? I was pretty impressed to get 2 Punishers. That's kind of why these claim sales are so fun. And by the way, when I was mentioning it to people, they do ship. I think it's like $5 shipping for up to 3 books, and then it's like 10, or I don't know. I just go and do curbside. Not to get all current eventy. I mean, the whole point is to be the opposite of that. I don't need to go into stores right now, but I'm more than happy to let them bring it out to me at my car. I sort of like the virtual shopping of these claim sales. I find that to be a lot of fun. And I might continue to shop that way for a little while, mostly because it's fun. And anyway, I've got 2 books left. The last one will be one that I've wanted for a very long time, and I'll talk about that. And our 20 minutes will have wound down into almost an hour, but I can't stay beyond that because I have to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We won't be doing our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after show for AfterBuzz TV. We'll, I guess, make it up with a double episode next week, but I'm still going to watch anyway. Mostly because I don't have cable, so I can't. I guess it ends up on Hulu. I'm an old man. I was like, well, I can't tape it. Anyway, so I talked him down on the price for this one because it stayed up for a little while. It went up for $15, and I was just like, I don't know. I said 10. I sell for 12. The Thing #1. So Jeff Winstead, this is the next issue after one of your favorite stories, Marvel 2-in-1 number 100, which Marvel 2-in-1 ended so that they could give the Thing his solo book. And you've seen a few of them here today. I'm a little bit of a sucker for number 1s, but this is a series that I read. I really liked this series when they stayed with Ben Grimm in Battle World, which was where the Secret Wars took place. And he was there for, I don't know, at least a year, like real time. I think it was a little longer. And he stayed there because he could transform between Ben Grimm and the Thing at will. And I don't know, it just made it such an interesting series. And then he came back and he wasn't in the FF. I really like She-Hulk and the Fantastic Four. So I'm a sucker for everything that was the way it was when I started reading. So I like She-Hulk and the Fantastic Four. Love Ben Grimm and the Fantastic Four. But yeah, so it just sort of didn't work once he came back and he wasn't part of the FF. And then they did eventually. I think they kicked She-Hulk back over to the Avengers, which also worked. But very interested in this. I don't quite know. I don't know what was going on with him at this point. This is 83, 82. This is a little bit before I started reading comics, but so yeah. So I was asking Jeff Winstead what he was impressed by, and it was Daredevil with a gun. Yeah, it's just a cool looking cover, and I've seen it for years. All right. So the last book that I got, this is not some major, like, super collectible book. It's a little beat up. I think they put it up for $10. I see $10 is handwritten on the the little price tag. Amazing Spider-Man 148. This is basically the end of the original Clone Saga. You see, he's fighting the Jackal. My friend John, my best friend, he was best man in my wedding. I was best man in his wedding. And he had this when we were kids. I don't even know how he got it. Like his uncle gave it to him. And I remember reading it and I was like, I have so many questions. I want to know everything that was before this. And I think I Xeroxed. I think he did it for me. He went, he like photocopied this entire book for me. So I had like this photocopy version of it. I don't think I still have it, but if I did, it would be in one of these boxes, but I'm pretty sure I don't still have it. So I've wanted to have this book ever since then, but I wasn't going to steal it from my best friend because like there's a line. So, I haven't seen this book in color in like, I don't know, 35 years, but, yeah. You have a good Jerry Conway. Oh, Ross Andrew. And, I don't know these embellishers. M. Esposito and D. Hunt. I don't know them. Len Wein was the editor. Okay. So Uvia Scrimshaw. This is not, this is kind of another classic old comic book ad for Grit magazine. All right. This is not quite Sea Monkeys. Although this, Ultra Power, binoculars is a pretty good one, but, yeah, this is, there's this thing at the end that I always remembered. I want to make sure that I'm remembering this right. You know what? I think, John had this issue and the next one. So it's the next one. But I saw this cover and right away I was like, I'm going to get that. But 149, Peter gets his lab results from Kirk Connors, aka the Lizard, about whether or not he was a clone. And Peter's like, I know I'm the real me. I don't have to check I'm a clone. I remember I read this and it was like years after the issue had been published. And I'm like, God, that would be so stupid if it turned out he should have checked because he really is the clone. And then after I was done reading Spider-Man in this era where I was glad I wasn't reading Spider-Man, when they have Ben Reilly show up, that's the original Peter Parker. And this Peter Parker that we knew actually was the clone, and he should have checked at that moment and he would have known. And I was like, God, that's so stupid. Like as a kid, I thought that would be stupid. So, anyway, Jeff Winstead thinks that this issue is sweet. And of course, Uvia Scrimshaw says Grit, because that was there. So, yeah, this is kind of like, I don't know. It's just, it brings me back a little bit. But look at how angry Mary Jane is. She's usually very annoyed with Peter. This is a girl, and you can call her a girl because she's, not quite a woman, as Britney Spears would say. She has no idea that he is Spider-Man. There's a point where she figures it out. But, oh, wait a minute. Or does she know by then? Jeff, did Mary Jane know he was Spider-Man? Like, I think she did, right? Because she, like, comforts him after Gwen Stacy dies. I don't know now. I'm confused. I'm actually confused as to when she knew that. I feel like I should be better on this stuff because I fancy myself some kind of, not an expert, but aficionado of these things. And I don't actually know. Okay, Jeff doesn't believe so. Yeah. I think it's just the fact that Gwen Stacy died. She's there to comfort him, and Peter like very mean to her and tries to get her to like leave. And it's like, just go off and party. That's what you do best. It's not exactly what he says, but she sits down and she stays with him because Gwen had passed away. Anyway, so that goes back to my point. I talked myself out of the point I was trying to make, which is Mary Jane Watson has no idea that this guy is Spider-Man. She's just annoyed that Peter's such a weenie. But they're friends. Anyway, at some point, he proposes. She says no. Then when I was reading, he proposed and she said no again. But then in the next issue, she said yes. Anyway, a lot of books here. I was more than I thought I had. And the fact that I almost filled an hour doesn't surprise me from a Bladtcast standpoint. But in terms of actually having the kind of content that warranted it, yeah, these Daredevil books, I kind of want to fill in the gaps in between. I'd like to read all this whole Punisher storyline and some of this Bullseye stuff, but I'll probably just read it digitally. Just sort of doing a quick recap on these 4 magic books that go together. Anyway, let me know what you think of this, especially if you took the time to watch it not live and you're not Jeff Winstead, who I basically bullied into doing this by checking with him, like, does it work in your schedule? Great, I'm going to do it then. So he kind of like couldn't say no at that point. But I always like doing this sort of thing, and this is only the second time I've done it. So if you enjoy these, I will occasionally get some new comics still. But we don't have any time for it tonight, but I have all these old comics of mine in these boxes behind me, which I would be happy to do that again. But thank you to Uvula Scrimshaw. I don't even know how much you like comics, Uvula Scrimshaw, but you said you had read some before. Oh, yeah, I got to show these off. Falcon and Winter Soldier. That one. This 15-cent Iron Man. Punisher Year 1. Punisher Invades the Nam. Dr. Aphra. Mighty Thor #1, JRJR. Apocalypse Hulk. That's not what it's called, but it should be. Spidey 43, new issue this week. Also new issue this week, Avengers 33. I'll let you know. And we started off with Amazing Spider-Man 138. Well, let me know what you thought. If you want to do more of this stuff, I got more. It's like stuff that I don't remember, but it might jog my memory, stuff that I read a long time ago. But this was fun. And obviously you can find me at Christian DMZ, Twitter, Instagram, and Bladtcast. It's out there, bladtcast.com. And Uvula Scrimshaw says that he loved comics, gave about 15 years worth to his nephew when I finally stopped reading them. Yeah, I'm sort of like kind of keeping them for my son, but let's be honest, I'm keeping them for me to like reread one day, really. But that's all right. But I'd reread them while he gets to reread them and stuff like that. But anyway, oh no, Jacob Downey made it. Barely. Well, it'll be archived. If you want to watch me talk about comics, you can leave comments in the chat. I will come back and follow up. But anyway, so that's where you can keep in touch. And I mentioned our friend Jeff Winstead, his series, The Alternate. We did a whole Bladtcast 385. There's a video version right here on the YouTube channel and also an audio version. Thanks so much to everybody. Stay in touch. I told you how to be connected with me. And we'll see you next time on the Bladtcast. And hopefully we see you doing one of these again soon. Bye, everybody.